Hey guys, and welcome back to the North American Qualifying Tournament. I am Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora, joined by Robert Worthen Wing. And we just saw Trump complete a reverse sweep over Bloody Face, 3-2. What a series that was. And I know you were watching that one backstage.
Yeah, you don't become the mayor of Value Town without getting your hands dirty sometimes.
Yeah, without getting a little bit more value than others had anticipated. So he's going to be moving up to the higher portion of the bracket. Meanwhile, Bloody Face is going to be dropping down to the lower portion of the bracket, but still not out of it yet.
Yeah, and I think it was a really impressive showing from Bloody Face to kind of go out there and give him a run for his money the way he did. Trump looked like he was ready to get 0-3 and then clawed back into it. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at too, and something that really stood out to me was kind of the risks versus reward that he was assessing. I love to see players make plays that way. I think it's one of the best ways to win at the game.
Yeah, very impressive set from Bloody Face, and I expect to see more of him before the qualifier's over.
Yeah, going to be a pleasure to do so as well. So these players continue to fight it out to try to get their slot at the Americas Championship. 6 players from NA are going to be joined by 2 of the Latin American qualifiers, where they're going to fight it out to find out who's becoming the Americas Champion for this year on their road to BlizzCon.
Yeah, and so far it looks like, I mean, at least from the North American side, I haven't seen the Latin American players play just yet, but the North American side has been very impressive thus far.
Yeah, these high-class players have been dominant on tournament scenes. Some of them have been kind of coming up in 2015. Some of them are from 2014. Some of them are the up-and-coming ladder players that we've been seeing these guys do battle, but everything I've seen so far has been pretty darn impressive, and I think we're going to have ourselves a high-quality champion this year.
Speaking of impressive, the 2 players on our next set, Muzzy and Phonetap, are they're new in 2015 to kind of the scene, and they've both actually been extremely impressive across a number of different leagues and tournaments.
Yeah, so those guys are getting ready right now, but before we get into that, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this. Blizzard, Twitch, and ESL, of course, wouldn't be able to be possible without these guys. And Amazon. We're running a promotion for Hearthstone right now. You go to Amazon.com/Hearthstone, get yourself some packs on the cheap. 87 packs available for just $90, just over $1 a pack.
Right, it's a lot like playing Wild Growth and accelerating your collection.
Well, I see where you're going with
I've
this.
Got a lot of these. It's a long few days. I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
I hope you certainly are. Maybe you're looking to fill out your collection. You want to find yourself in a similar spot to these guys. Going to need the right tools to do it. And this is a great way to start filling out your collection, especially when a new set's just released.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a golden Ronin like I have. That takes some serious dust.
You're going to want those golden arcane missiles. So, yeah, Phonetap versus Muzzy is going to be the one coming up. You had mentioned it earlier. These guys, former teammates.
Yep.
Phonetap has found himself in positions like this before. He won the ESL Legendary Series 2. And Muzzy, this guy no stranger to it either. He's been picked up Pinnacle 4, which he also qualified for. Been pretty dominant on ladder and also top 8 at HPL.
Yeah, so obviously Muzzy is one of those players who is very, very well known on the ladder, extremely talented ladder player, and has been seen in obviously PvP Lives, Hearthstone Pro League, put up respectable numbers over there. Great player. Phonetap actually kind of got his big thing from the finale of ESL Legendary Series Season 2, and that's really springboarded his career in the pro Hearthstone scene.
Yeah, that was really where it all boiled down. And that's actually when he got picked up by Hearthlytics as well, which is where Muzzy is coming from. Now he's moved on to Luminosity, I believe it is.
Yep.
And finding himself a nice home over there. But taking a look at these guys' lineups and how they face off against each other, very different approaches they're taking in this event. Phonetap's got Hunter, Paladin, and Warrior. Been seeing a lot more Secret Paladin lately. Not a big surprise to see Warrior in these guys' lineups. Patron widely regarded as one of the best lists out there, but Muzzy, he's sticking to his guns on this one. These are 3 his bread and butter classes: Druid, Warlock, and Warrior.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see Secrets Paladin. Obviously, as this Hearthstone community well knows, I'm a big proponent of Paladin. Put your faith in the light. But Hunter, again, is kind of, we saw Zalay running Hunter, and it didn't really serve him too well, but I don't know. Maybe Phonetap will have better luck with the deck.
Yeah, I could definitely see sometimes that Hunter, doesn't have quite the opening hands it would really want to have, but at times it's got opening hands and it looks scary. And talking about scary opening hands, both of these guys have some great starts.
Yeah, Muzzy in specific has the patented turn 2 Fiery War Axe that all warriors desire to have. He even has the coin, so he could possibly put it out on turn 1. Phonetap's hand, he's got the Haunted Creeper. Might want to keep the quick shot as well. Houndmaster's maybe not necessarily something you keep in that opening hand. Maybe he'll look for something a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, overall, Phonetap has a solid few pieces, and Muzzy's hand is honestly really, really great against a Hunter.
Yeah, this is really where we're going to find out what kind of direction Phonetap wants to take with this game. If he keeps that Houndmaster, going to have his sights set on getting that early swing turn with the Houndmaster. But Muzzy, take a look at his hand. There's no shortage of ways for him to fight back against this board. And that's a brawl.
That is a brawl.
Wow, this is something that we have not seen a lot of in Grim Patron decks. In fact, that card's kind of become extinct in some of the Grim Patron versions, just solely focused on comboing out their opponents. But in this one, it looks like he wants to have some recovery potential for mirrors.
Right, so as you brought up, the mirror match potential with Brawl is really, really strong, but there's also just a couple of other matchups where it kind of gives him a solid edge. If Hunter gets out there way too fast, puts down, stuff like Mad Scientist, Knife Juggler, Leper Gnomes, maybe some Haunted Creepers, Muzzy has the ability to just really quickly and efficiently just wipe them off the board.
And that's really what Warrior seems to be best at, is making sure it can take care of lots of minions throughout the entirety of the game. And that's a Dread Scale in Phonetap's hand as well.
That's new.
Yeah, this is something I haven't seen a ton of, but I kind of like it in here, honestly. Certain situations where Phonetap's going to be finding himself facing off against a bunch of one-health minions, I mean, that's a great answer to muster for battle.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see it, because this is actually the first time I've ever seen Dreadscale in a competitive Hunter deck. So let's see if it pans out for him. He's also got the Sludge Belcher, so this is definitely kind of hinting that it's more that mid-range Hunter style as opposed to Hybrid. Hybrid, that deck list has largely dropped Sludge Belcher in favor of kind of being more, I guess, dynamic in terms of doing direct damage quickly. So I think Patron, generally kind of has problems with dealing with Sludge Belcher, at least efficiently. So
yeah, that's one of those cards where it just creates a big road hump for you. And that's one of the ways it seems to have been the favorable way to fight against Patron Warriors, just to kind of get a couple road humps out and make sure they're having to invest more resources than they would want to. But Muzzy so far making great use of what he's got. I am a little bit surprised to see him use that Fiery War Axe on that 1/1, but doesn't want Glaive Zuka to be a big factor, maybe not Abusive Sergeant. As far as he's concerned, he just wants to keep the options restricted. He's still got a Death Spite to follow up, so how much is he really losing?
That's kind of a big thing. You look at Muzzy's hand, and he's got that coin for the Death Spite, and it just means that he can really quickly re-equip into a weapon. So you don't even need to keep that second charge of Fiery War Axe right there. And it's not like his turn 3 was otherwise super solid. I mean, he could have put down the Frothing Berserker for tempo, but obviously as a Patron player, that's not what you want to do most of the time. So that feels like a really good play for Muzzy.
Yeah, those are more of necessity plays at times.
Right.
In the direction you really want to be taking. But speaking of taking directions, I don't think he anticipates Phonetap's build being quite this slow.
Yeah, I'm kind of... the more I look at Phonetap's hand and kind of what he has, I feel like this is actually very much targeted at dealing with Patron. I don't know, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, too. And the big one, the dead giveaway to me is the fact that he's got this Sludge Belcher. And the Dread Scale obviously being a big indicator. He doesn't have a ton of... probably doesn't even have Leper Gnome in this build, I would say, given the way this looks. A lot more tools dedicated to that mid-game. And because of that, it's just going to fight against Grim Patron better.
Right, we see Muzzy gets Grim Patron off the top, and he has, the Death Spite ready to go. He has a lot of tools. He has the coin to possibly bring out a Whirlwind. He has Inner Rage. Looks like he's considering just taking an extremely aggressive line of play here.
And I can't blame him for this whatsoever. I mean, this is really the big turn you're looking for, is having Grim Patron, an Inner Rage, and the Whirlwind effect. When that Whirlwind effect is a Death Spite, not only is he killing minions, but he's getting gigantic swings in terms of his number of minions on board. I don't see a play where he does this and he goes, gosh, you know what? I really wish I didn't make 14 power worth of minions.
Yeah, and Sludge Belcher is obviously incredibly strong against Patron. Now, what it leaves behind, kind of a liability.
Yeah, at times it definitely can be. Anytime you have a 1-health minion on board, Grim Patrons are able to run over those and oftentimes multiply themselves.
Yeah, and we can see here a lot of Patrons being made. This is probably not necessarily where Phonetap wants to find himself immediately. Now, obviously, he has Dread Scale.
Wow, look at that draw from him, too.
Yeah, that is definitely... So, I really feel confident in saying that Phonetap's deck is definitely, at least on some level, meant to deal with Patron.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that it's what this is aimed at. That Flame Juggler is left behind with Pilot Shredder, going to be able to take out that 2-health Grim Patron. Hunter's Mark's going to be able to reset one of these. And the Dread Scale actually going to be able to be made some use of as well, taking out 2 1-health Grim Patrons. And then he has the option of either the Eaglehorn Bow or the Kill Command or the Quick Shot. All of the answers in Phonetap's hand.
What I like most about this deck is traditionally mid-range Hunter kind of fell off when Patron kind of rose in popularity because it could be punished so easily by the Patron. This is kind of like, it's a little bit like playing Possum, right? You're like, oh yeah, look, I'm queuing with the mid range. You know, it's not gonna work. You're gonna have an easy game. But yeah, look at that.
Just like that.
The hunter clears the board of patrons. That is not something you see often.
It's certainly not. And at this point, also, when you just saw this happen and you're in Muzzy's seat, you're wondering what's going on. What on earth is left in Phonetap's hand?
Yeah, for Muzzy, this is kind of one of those moments where you're suddenly, you feel way less sure. Like after you made all those patrons, you're probably like, wow, I'm in a great spot. I have a bunch of patrons on the board. He's hunter. What's he going to do about it? A fair bit, actually.
Yeah, now you're wondering what you're going to do about it.
Right, and we see Muzzy's hand is not like he did get the Warsong Commander. So he's Warsong Commander. He has Frothing Berserker. Obviously, he can throw that Frothing Berserker at something, but there's nothing on the board for him to really take advantage of it with.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for big combo turns. He wants big burst damage to that card. He doesn't want to be taken as a single threat.
Yeah, Phonetap is now in a much better situation, and he may even ponder putting down something like Savannah Highmane and just pushing damage, because Muzzy's life, 13, that's not a big number. That's not where you want to be.
Yeah, he's just pushing damage.
Yep, kill commands, quick shots. This is, hero power.
It's just enough to go ahead and make sure that this game is going to game number 2. Dreadscale pulling a ton of weight in this one. I just realized that guy's a beast.
Yeah, Dreadscale doing work. Dreadscale had some naysayers and proved them wrong.
Well, this game he certainly did. The right situation. Anytime you have a card that has one of those potentially impacting effects like Dreadscale, you just have to find the right situation for it. And in this one, Phonetap didn't really find the right situation. He created the right situation. He played a Sludge Belcher, which enticed that attack from Muzzy, and because he was going to attack with that Dustbite anyway, thought, why not go for the Grim Patrons? Hunter's Mark is in this build to help enable those Dreadscales. I think this is a fantastic build that we just saw from him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when Muzzy was thinking about, what beats Grim Patron, he was not thinking to himself, I got to watch out for Dreadscale and Hunter's Mark. That's just going to ruin things for me. So, unfortunately for Muzzy, that's how it went. And kudos to Phonetap for bringing something pretty innovative to this.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is part of the thing that you're going to see with players along this road. We had 40 players playing all the way down to 6 over the course of the last week or so. We're in day number 6 right now. His lineup certainly unique to some of the ones that we've seen. So he's got Paladin and Warrior left, and Muzzy still making work with his full lineup, Druid, Warlock, and Warrior.
Yeah, if you're Phonetap, you're probably glad the Hunter went ahead and worked as intended. You got that win off Patron, and now you can, go to your next decks. What do you think he chooses next?
Well, this is a spot where I feel like it maybe doesn't matter too much. Maybe wants to conceal a little bit of the information of what his Paladin is, but at the same time, if he launches the Paladin out there right away, Muzzy's pretty apt, I think, to play the same deck over again. Maybe not know exactly what Phonetap's going to throw at him. Maybe he can catch him off guard with a few surprises again and run away with another one.
Right. So, Phonetap, as we mentioned, has that Paladin deck, and the Secrets Paladin is one that's very, very volatile in the meta right now. There's a bunch of different ways to build it. Some people like running stuff like Murloc Knights. Others prefer a slower, almost more control-oriented approach to the Secrets Paladin. Information is a big deal here.
Not only that, but there's guys like Strifecrow who just think that the non-Secrets version is a better version. He was running 2 Quartermasters and Murloc Knights.
Right.
He had 0 copies of Mysterious Challenger. He had no secrets in his build. That's another take on that deck that people have looked at and gone, maybe this is the right way to play it. I think the vast majority of the Paladin players at this stage of the tournament are Secret Paladin players. It's a very powerful deck, but the Secret's kind of out at this point. And so because of that, people have found some ways to fight against that deck, but it looks like Phonetap is just going to be content with playing Patron Warrior. Can't blame him. I say it's Patron Warrior. We see Inner Rage, we see Shield Block, we see Shield Slam. Is there any chance he's playing Control with his opening hand?
I would say based on Inner Rage, you have to think that can't be the case. Inner Rage, obviously, way, way back in the day, was used to maybe activate Grom. These days, not so much. I'm going to say he's playing more kind of the defensive build of Patron.
Which wouldn't surprise me considering what he just did game 1. A kind of defensive build of Hunter to play a defensive build of Grim Patron. Not a surprise to see from Phonetap at this point. So that's going to be Grim Patron mirror match, and this one is kind of a staring contest at times.
Yeah, we look at the opening hands here, and Muzzy has Emperor Thorsan. That's definitely, I think, the card in this matchup you want to try to find as quickly as possible to try to get the value off of that Emperor Thorsan, reduce the mana cost of the cards in your hand. Phonetap's hand is a little clunkier. He has both Grim Patrons, which obviously you want to find those cards, maybe just not in your opening hand.
Yeah, 2 of them is a little bit brutal, I'd say. And I think certainly one of the big tiebreakers in this matchup is going to be Emperor Thorsan. How much value you can actually get out of that one. And this is actually kind of a tricky card in this matchup. You don't always just play it straight away on turn 6.
Right. Yeah, looking at Phonetap's hand now, he does have the Acolyte of Pain. He has stuff like Cruel Taskmaster. He could possibly look into comboing with Battle Rage to kind of draw some cards. We see Muzzy kind of holding off on actually using the Armor Up ability, because obviously when you're playing Patron Warrior, Battle Rage is a huge consideration, and you're maybe thinking, I probably want to take 1 damage so that I will get the card off of Battle Rage. He ultimately opts to Armor Up, figures he's got a long road ahead of him if he wants to win that game. He'll probably take some damage along the way.
I'm totally in agreement with that line of thinking too. I feel like if you're armoring up turn after turn, and because of that you're never able to be dipped into damage to use Battle Rage, you're probably just winning anyway.
Right.
And so because of that, I think maybe taking 4 to 8 damage by foregoing armor ups, so that way you can take damage activated Battle Rage, probably not the best trade-off in the world.
We saw Phonetap go ahead and coin out the Acolyte of Pain, which is a very risky play if the opponent has the Fiery War Axe. Muzzy doesn't have it and wasn't able to punish him, so now Phonetap can possibly use that Cruel Taskmaster to activate the Acolyte of Pain and not only begin putting out damage, but begin drawing cards.
The other thing, too, is that you didn't see your opponent deal with it, so maybe he just doesn't have any way to deal with it. Maybe you can just get away with a second one here.
That would be interesting. I think 2 Acolyte of Pains is a very, very attractive proposition. That's a lot of cards. That said, he doesn't really have a way to activate the second one. So if he had a Whirlwind in hand, that would probably be incredibly enticing. But I don't know. I have to assume that he either Armor Ups or Cruel Taskmasters here. Although there's really no harm in putting down that second Acolyte, is there?
That's kind of what I'm looking at too. Is that just at this point, I'm looking at freeing up mana in the hand.
Right.
Planning out your next couple turns. Again, like you said, this hand's pretty clunky right now, so he's going to want some extra gas to make sure he can get past that point and be making the most of it. So I certainly can't blame him for using the Cruel Taskmaster outright. It'd be nice to have an Acolyte of Pain to be able to combo with this. And at the same time, this will start shredding a little bit of armor. This is still a threat enough on the board right now, I think. I think both options are totally reasonable.
Right, and consider that Phonetap has Death's Bite in hand. So if he wants to go ahead and swing, he can start setting up a situation where he's kind of telling Muzzy, look, you need to either deal with this Acolyte, which he's actually going to use an Execute on to get rid of it.
It's funny. A lot of times in the Control Warrior matchups, you would be looking at doing that and going, am I really going to execute an Acolyte of Pain? It's usually the wrong call. But in this Grim Patron matchup, all the minions are pretty reasonably dealt with. Most of them have 3 or less health. Frothing Berserker is really about the biggest one at 4 health. You just don't really need to execute that much.
I was going to say, you usually see Frothing Berserker in a situation where you have no time to execute.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
Usually it's coming out of the hand, charging at you for 26 or whatever it is.
Right. So I think executing the Acolyte of Pain makes a lot of sense. The biggest thing you want to do at this point is just stop him from drawing cards. You probably also don't want to be taking 3 damage a turn if you can help it. So I think that execute feels pretty good. Maybe the only other card you're looking at possibly executing before things really get out of hand would be Emperor Thorson, because there's a point where there's a bunch of damage patrons on the board, and it's like, well, which one do I want to execute? But maybe things are a little far gone at that point.
Yeah, I think if you're deciding which damaged Grim Patron to execute, not even should I execute this damaged Grim Patron, which one of them?
Right. That's kind of a situation you just don't want to be in.
Oh, no. That's definitely a situation you don't want to be in.
And something else to consider, we brought this up last time, but Muzzy is running Brawl.
Oh, that's an excellent point, actually. I completely forgot that it was in there, and I'd already almost discounted it just because so many times I look at that and I wonder, what exactly is this in here for? I think it's here specifically for the mirror. Like, the deck is already powerful enough versus everything else. Why not try to show up your matchup in that area?
Right, and Phonetap doesn't know it. So Phonetap is probably thinking, like, all right, it's a Patron Warrior. I know what to expect here. I have to win this hard-fought battle. He's not expecting the Brawl to possibly come out and just get rid of all his patrons.
That's always the big turning point in the game. The element of surprise. Beautiful thing of Hearthstone.
Yeah, and kudos to Muzzy for kind of realizing last time that there was no reason to play it, and he definitely didn't show it at all. So I think you've got to give him the leg up in this matchup. Because right now, they're both in the point where they're just kind of looking to draw cards. Yeah,
this is kind of what I meant by the staring matchup, too, is that it's kind of like an awkward high school dance where both parties are unwilling to do anything. But then as soon as somebody does one thing, everybody gets in there.
Everybody does get in there.
Yeah, that's really kind of what this matchup is in this regard. But it looks like Phonetap's going to be the first one to get in there. And we're going to find out if Muzzy can capitalize on this at all. He says 2 Grim Patrons is enough.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where you've already seen one execute. So maybe you're wondering, like, does my opponent have the second one? He doesn't have a weapon up. Maybe this is okay to put out. The interesting thing, too, is if these survive, Phonetap actually really doesn't have a way to activate more.
That may have been one of the reasons why he chose to go for this right now. is because he does have the second Grim Patron. He doesn't have a way to activate it. Maybe this will just occupy some resources from Muzzy, and then he can look to build his hand to a better spot.
I like this play by Muzzy. Muzzy just immediately jams down Thorson. He's thinking, okay, the patrons are down. I got to get in this game. Now, Phonetap's going to be able to Battle Rage, but it's only a Battle Rage for 2. I mean, that's basically the equivalent of playing an Arcane Intellect. You're not super concerned about it.
Well,
unfortunately for Muzzy, Phonetap picked up some pretty reasonable cards.
Those are some hefty pickups, I would say, Rob. In fact, I would almost say that Whirlwind...
reasonably sized draw. Reasonably sized.
That Whirlwind is a reasonably sized draw right now, and it's going to create a pretty unreasonably sized board for one point of mana here. Thorson, it's good. It's lights out for him.
Yeah, Phonetap even has the execute to follow up, which if you're Muzzy, I would like to know what the survival rate of the average Emperor Thorson is, because I think he's the only minion in Hearthstone that dies more often on the same turn played than Knife Juggler.
Yeah, he dies more than Sean Bean.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Indeed. And it's defected over to Phonetap's hand at this point as well.
Right.
3 fresh Grim Patrons for Phonetap. Muzzy, no answers to what's happening right now.
So he's thumbing over that Grim Patron. If I were him, and I don't know, maybe this is probably not. Obviously, Muzzy's a way better player than I am. I'm shield blocking for 2. I'm like, come on, Brawl. Where are you, Brawl? Be there for me.
I think he's trying to create the illusion that card is something else. Instead, he gets a second copy of Battle Rage, and these are going to have to be for 1.
Ooh, this doesn't feel good.
No, it does not. But Muzzy doesn't have the time to sit around and wait for these to provide bigger value. He's got to find that one Brawl that's in his deck, and he's got to find it right about now.
Yeah, and it looks like he unfortunately did not find it, and now he's kind of staring at his hand, and he's like, what do I do?
Yeah, this is one of those positions where you wonder where the cards went south.
Right, and I would assume that if you're Muzzy, you're like, Brawl, come on, man. You know you had a job to do. You know what time? 11 o'clock was the start time. Get in here.
He literally looked at the wall as soon as you said, like 11 o'clock, time to get in here. It's like he checked the time on the wall.
He's wondering, did I show up early? Is Brawl late? What happened here? There's clear miscommunication. Phonetap just in a great spot.
His friend in the background's looking for the Brawl right now, too. He's like, it's laying around here somewhere.
Yeah, Phonetap's just kind of thinking, can I just kill him
Is there any way I can kill him this turn? I don't think there is, Phonetap.
Right, no War Song. And there's nothing to throw the Unstable Ghoul against, even if he had the War Song. Yeah. So it may be looking at a couple of turns. He's just going to, armor up, draw some cards. Phonetap's just in a very luxurious position. Oof.
Well, does that change anything? He's already consumed 4 mana, so I think that's going to do it for this turn.
Yeah. Interesting that he did not elect to go for the Emperor Thorson. What do you make of that?
I think at this point, he feels like he's just got enough stuff on board. Why do anything, really? Muzzy's got to be the one to make a move here. Phonetap's not staring down 17 points of damage.
Right. Phonetap's just, here's my patrons. Enjoy them. I'm going to armor up.
You got to deal me 35, or you've got to kill all my Grim Patrons.
And Phonetap, I'm sure the read for him is you watched Muzzy shield block, which is fine and normal. You've also watched Phonetap just Battle Rage for 1. That is a tell. That is an absolute tell.
Oh, yes.
All right, so you see the Whirlwind coming out, and...
Wait a minute now.
Does he have enough?
That's only 1 Frothing Berserker, and it's only 1 Whirlwind, so... It's not quite enough damage.
That also makes the shield block from Phonetap last last turn make a lot more sense, because he's wondering, can I just be killed?
Yeah, that was really what he's put him to test to. Muzzy's either got to deal 35 or Muzzy's got to kill all these Grim Patrons. It's got to be one or the other.
And this is really the turn. He has to do it now.
Yeah.
And you see kind of Muzzy doing some math, and he's trying to figure out, is there a world where he can possibly just end this turn? So let's see. He's got Warsong Commander, he's got Frothing Berserker. You put those together, that's 5 mana. Yeah, he can't actually throw in the Patron with all that as well. So maybe he's looking to generate a bunch of armor off of... Oh.
Wow, he is digging aggressively for that Brawl right now. He knows that Armor Smith always wins the Brawl as well.
Kit Kats wouldn't lie.
Yeah, if he draws his Brawl, we're going to find out, but it's got to be now.
Oh, second execute, that is...
Not quite it for Muzzy, but does he stay alive this turn because of the way this has been played? I don't think he does.
Let's see.
I think it's just short. Actually, him interraging that Armor Smith, I think, is what's going to help have done him in.
Warsong Commander. That's you know what? I would say that's even a huge draw.
Yeah. It's not a reasonably sized
Nope.
one. That one is the huge one
That is a huge
that
draw.
he was looking for.
We're not even gonna find out if Kit Kat told the truth or not.
We're not this game anyway. Phonetap is going to take a 2-0 lead here over Muzzy, and now he's just got Paladin left to win with. But guess what? Last match, Trump was in this exact same spot. He was able to complete a reverse sweep. Is Phonetap going to be able to close out this series?
Yeah, I'm sure if you're Phonetap, you saw the last series and you're like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to complete the sweep. I will not get reverse swept upon. If you're Muzzy, you're probably taking some time to find Brawl and have a conversation. You're like, Bro, where were you?
Where you at, man?
Brawl showed up in the first match. Wasn't really required.
Look, when we were practicing, you were here the whole time.
We talked about this.
You were dunking on fools.
Yeah, just not that way. Not the way it panned out, unfortunately, in that game.
Yeah.
If you're Muzzy now, knowing that Paladin is coming up, but not really knowing like what kind of style Paladin it is, I don't know. You got to be nervous.
That's the big thing for me, is that he doesn't necessarily know exactly what this build is.
Right.
And when you're navigating against this, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of different takes on how this build goes through right now. Because it's kind of going through these evolutions, how does Muzzy interpret that? And more importantly, how does that affect the way he plays?
Right. See, from my understanding, and I've actually not had too much experience with this matchup because I haven't played too much of Patron in general, but if you're playing the super aggressive Paladin variant, from what I understand, Patron is generally favored against that. But the slower it gets in this kind of weird world, it seems like the Patron has more trouble.
Yeah, that's really what my experience with that matchup is, too. When I was playing like the blistering fast versions of the Paladin deck, I could kind of just run over the Warrior at times. When it was slower, I wasn't really running him over, but I felt like I was getting better control over the game. But
right.
with it's kind of like with the Secret Keeper build, it's really the beginning of the game is the all or nothing. If you have the right kinds of hands, you're going to beat almost everybody. The problem is getting that right kind of hand.
Right, so as we look down at the... Muzzy has all of his decks available to him, so he could choose to switch into Druid or Warlock, knowing that he's playing against a Paladin. I would personally expect him to stick with Warrior, though. What about you?
I think he's going to stick with Warrior this one as well. And something that kind of always has stood out to me is that in Conquest, when players are losing with a deck, they'll tend to just keep playing that deck, knowing they have to get a win with it anyway. And so at this point, it almost doesn't matter which one of these he queues up. I probably would just queue up the one that's strongest and doesn't need as much information to perform the same way. Maybe this Druid deck has a couple of key cards in it that he would like to draw, but he doesn't quite know what's in this Paladin build just yet. So if he queues up this Patron Warrior, maybe he finds a little bit more information than he would have before. And look at that. Haunted Creeper, Sludge Belcher, Lotheb. Those are three cards that maybe Muzzy wasn't expecting to be in this build. And now because he's queued up Grim Patron Warrior, it's going to play its game. It's going to see these cards, and maybe that changes the way he plays the next two.
Garage said it best for Muzzy. It's victory, victory or not the tournament anymore. Phonetap, his hand is very much reminiscent to me of kind of that GVG mid-range Paladin. Just looking at what he has, Lotheb, Sludge Belcher, Haunted Creeper. Very curious to see if he is in fact running more secrets.
Yeah,
there's one.
Yeah,
yep,
there we go. That's the give up. Nobody runs Redemption without running Mysterious Challenger.
Right, and we see, so Phonetap's hand Phonetap's start is going to be pretty solid here. He has Redemption, he can also just drop Shielded Minibot, and then if he doesn't, elect a hero power, he could possibly just get a newly divine Shielded Minibot, but he's going to go ahead and play down the Knife Juggler.
Yeah, he wants to play a little bit more aggressively, kind of force the issue a tad.
Right.
Muzzy, meanwhile, not necessarily the best answers to this. Unstable Ghoul can kill this Knife Juggler, but that's a 1-for-1 in a matchup where you're looking at hero powers to make 1 health minions. Muster for Battle is going to make 3 minions at a time. A lot of different stuff can happen here, and having to trade an Unstable Ghoul for a Knife Juggler, maybe not the button he's looking for.
Right. At the same time, this does kind of put Phonetap in an awkward situation, right? The Redemption of the Knife Juggler very much tells us that he really wanted that Knife Juggler to stick on the board, and since Secrets can't activate on his turn, if he runs that Knife Juggler into the Unstable Ghoul, that's it. And then, if he chooses to Muster for Battle, which obviously is the most organic thing you can do on turn 3 as a Paladin, you're going to get a token back.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just the direction he really wants to go with it, too. I also wouldn't mind seeing like Shielded Minibot and maybe another Secret, but I think Muster for Battle is just going to be a little bit too strong. I mean, you just saw Unstable Ghoul. It's using your mana properly. I think I totally agree with you. Having the sacrifices here, it's a small sacrifice to make, I'd say, for the Knife Juggler, because he's clearing the way for these guys who are reporting for duty.
Right, so if you're Muzzy now, you're trying to figure out what the secret is, and you've narrowed down a few things it can't be. It's not competitive spirit. What are you thinking it is?
Well, that's really the big one. I think when your opponent plays a turn 1 Secret, you're likely to think it's Avenge or
Noble
Redemption.
or Noble Sacrifice. Possibly.
Maybe Noble Sacrifice as well against a Warrior.
Right.
You know, that will clear out a weapon swing.
Ooh, a quality.
But yeah, I mean, Muzzy having to think about what it is. I think that Avenge and Redemption are really the two that are on his radar, which can't affect the way he plays too much. He's got to just kind of kill stuff and hope for the best.
Right, we do see he does have Brawl this time. So Brawl reported for duty. Brawl was like, I'm so sorry about last game. I'm here now. And I think that Brawl is going to be pretty punishing on turn 5 if he chooses to go that route.
This is really the big turn for Muzzy, is if he can get past what these secrets are going to do to this board, that's where he's going to be winning a lot of these games. Phonetap didn't draw a Battle Rage. I'm sorry, didn't draw a Divine Favor in this game. And this is really a big part of how these secret decks get back into the game. They invest a lot into the early stages to make sure they get an advantage, and then they use Divine Favor to refill their hand and continue that push.
Ooh, it's about to be a fight in the tavern here. Brawl's coming out, and this is just a really, really sick board to Brawl.
Yeah, this one's going to be a slobber knocker. We're going to find out who's coming out on top of this one. Not going to be the Acolyte of Pain, but I can tell you Phonetap is not feeling good about that Brawl.
Right, he's got an equality in hand, and I'm sure if you're Muzzy, you were sitting there, please don't be Divine Favor, please don't be Divine Favor. Good for him. It isn't. Equality is obviously can be strong against Patron in some scenarios, but just sitting in your hand with just equality does not feel great, especially in a situation where you need to be the aggressor.
Yeah, Muzzy has gotten the good news indeed. He's just going to keep digging into his deck as well.
Yeah, he'll just play a 3-mana, draw 1 card. It's not a big deal. I mean, Phonetap, maybe it's even better because if Divine Favor comes out, that's less cards than Phonetap can draw.
Wow, Lotheb right off the top. Phonetap, despite the fact he doesn't have Divine Favor, does get back-to-back pretty important minion draws. And that's keeping him in this game at this point. You know, I mean, he got his entire board swept away, which he invested his entire hand into. Without those 2 big draws just now, I think Phonetap would have almost no chance to win this one.
Right. Now, unfortunately, this kind of leads into a very convenient Emperor Thaurissan for Muzzy. On the other hand, Lotheb, even if he didn't necessarily accomplish much in blocking spells, still a 5/5. 5's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
You definitely want to be hitting people, specifically Muzzy, in the face with that 5 damage.
Yeah, I don't think he could even afford to trade with his Emperor at this point.
Do you think he maybe looks at possibly equality here, or is it just one of those things where you know Whirlwind's going to come out?
Is that a risk you want to take?
That is such a risk.
It stings to even think about.
Like I think you really feel like you want to protect your 5/5. You know what? You can have your discounted cards.
Yeah.
It's time to go face.
Let's go upstairs, boys. I like this play from Phonetap. He's just got to get the damage in.
Phonetap too kind of chuckled, and he's like, "Well, you know what? I'm either going to face you, or you're gonna win."
Yeah.
No trades. No trades.
You can't afford to not SM Orc in this spot.
Yeah. This
is gonna hang on to Muster for battle though. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of necessarily why
Grim Patrons?
Maybe?
Yeah.
If you're worried about that. Because obviously, what usually follows in your worst nightmares is Emperor Thaurissan, followed by Warsong Commander and Grim Patron, and then all of your tokens make extra patrons.
Well, I can tell you this is likely to be one of his worst nightmares as well. This Grim Patron draw from Muzzy. Gonna be doing some work.
Yeah, let's see what the Shredder has to drop. This Shredder could be a real liability here.
Everything in Muzzy's hand. Emperor Thaurissan has unlocked the world of potential for Muzzy.
In a world of bad times for Phonetap.
Bad times might be a tad of an understatement.
That is not. Oh.
Well, the Nerubian Egg's not what he wanted to drop. I can tell you that. 0 power minions typically don't get it done. And Muzzy's even gonna think about, should I kill this Nerubian Egg?
He's going to go ahead and kill it. I was wondering if he was almost going to just try to tiptoe around it. Oh, let's not break the egg. Let's not break the egg.
Yeah, he smashed it on the ground and then stepped on the evil creature that spawned.
Yeah, that was
henceforth.
And that's very much just kind of a way of, he's obviously got board now. He has patrons. He has the ability to generate charging patrons. So it's kind of those things where it's like, I'm just going to make sure all the risks are gone. I don't really want to deal with any funny business. Phonetap's already pulled out some weird cards in this. You're like, I don't really want to deal with that.
Yeah, Phonetap not gonna give up just yet, though. He does have Muzzy down to 12. But with an Armorsmith pickup, with a shield block in hand, with a Battle Rage, I don't think Muzzy's losing control of this game. I think he's got this one pretty darn close to locked up.
Yeah, the Brawl arriving on time was super clutch for Muzzy. The turn 4 Brawl, no less. Yeah, that's bad times for Phonetap, and it's kind of only gotten worse as, obviously Phonetap going face, we both agree, was probably the best play he could have made in that situation, but, you know, he was punished. There's a reason that in most matchups you're going to get rid of Emperor Thorsan and make trades. And
Yeah, the big punishing thing was the Grid Patron.
yeah.
Of course, that swing that's on the board, that's one of the reasons why this deck is so powerful, is if it gets to this state in the game, it's difficult to stop him at that point. And Phonetap, no real answers in hand, facing down 2 Armor Smiths and 3 Grim Patrons, and nothing but utility left.
Yeah, he draws Avenge, which Avenge is one of those cards where when you get it in your opening hand and you're playing really fast, you're like, this is a great card, this is exactly what I want. In this situation, Avenge, you're maybe not what you want to see.
Yeah, turn 9 is not the best time to be drawing 1 mana.
The old turn 9 Avenge.
The 1 mana utility early game aggression spells.
Right, not necessarily what you're looking for in this situation. I'm sure Muzzy is just like, maybe it's a noble sacrifice. Maybe I'm just going to get, more patrons. He just goes ahead and drops down the Frothing Berserker. He's at a point, I don't think this is quite lethal. No. So he's just at a point where he feels pretty confident. That said, if Consecration comes off the top...
That's actually kind of a frightening thing to think about.
So let's see, does he have with Slam?
Oh yeah,
Whirlwind.
He's got it. That's going to do it. Muzzy going to seal this game up and send it to game number 4. Doesn't get swept out of this one, but now is the time where... Phonetap, he cannot let himself think too far ahead in this one. Don't look at the situation and go, oh, I could have closed that right now. Am I going to get swept on the backside of things? Just keep playing your game and keep doing the best. At the end of the day, you did just get beat by Grim Patron.
Bloody Face is sending him texts like, no, stay strong. Don't even think. It's like, don't look down. Do not look down. Just keep going.
Don't falter, brother.
Yeah, so, and this, to be fair, I think this was a matchup that Muzzy had to be reasonably heavily favored in, so...
Yeah, Grim Patron's just one of those decks where if you're not specifically built to beat it, usually has a pretty good time. And again, with the turn 4 Brawl, that's something that you're almost never expecting to see from Grim Patron. That little bit of a surprise element.
Right.
I think if Phonetap knew there was Brawls in here, maybe he doesn't play quite as aggressively and quite as fast as he did. I think it was the right play anyway. Just happens to get punished by that.
Well, and Paladin in general in that kind of situation is kind of, you have to play the cards you're given. There's not a lot of, wait, I'll just get to like my strategy later on. With that kind of Paladin deck, you really just, here's what I drew, here's what I'm playing.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well, is that deck doesn't really have the time to just sit around and wait. It doesn't have a ton of card draw in it. It's got to kind of function based on what it draws. And that's
right.
the way most decks are going to be built. Paladin just happens to be one of those classes a little bit vulnerable to some cards like Brawl. So, still going to be playing with Paladin, though. Has 2 more games to pick up a win. But Muzzy, he has started the road to the reverse sweep. And I can tell you, in my times watching Muzzy, this is not unfamiliar territory for him.
Right. The nice thing for Phonetap is he didn't reveal the equality last turn. Now, if Muzzy's just running classic handlock, that is a card that can absolutely punish him.
Yeah, that's actually a really big detail you just mentioned, too. We've been talking about the element of surprise with that Brawl. Phonetap's got a very similar thing with that equality. The fact that he held on to it for as long as he did, Muzzy isn't aware that that's in his build.
I would also say that, Phonetap never got around to playing Mysterious Challenger, although you would have probably assumed Mysterious Challenger's in there. He didn't play the Sludge Belcher. He didn't really reveal all that much information. I mean, to Muzzy's knowledge, this deck is, aggro, Secret Paladin.
Just the typical old secrets deck.
Yeah.
With not an actual lot. It's got a lot of secrets in it, but there's not really many secrets to it.
Well played.
Yeah.
Well played. So we see here Phonetap's opening hand. He's got some strong cards, maybe not the ones you want in your opening hand necessarily.
I thought Muzzy had swapped over to Shades for a moment.
Right. Muzzy's like, the road to victory requires more shades.
Yeah.
The deal with its sunglasses. Muzzy looking a very strong opening hand. We didn't actually see an Iron Beak Owl in Phonetap's deck. It remains to be seen if it's in there. But.
Yeah, I think when I first played this version, I was actually I was on stream with Amnesia, and we were kind of walking through the builds and the pros and cons of certain things. We kept wanting to take an Iron Beak Owl in and out of the build and in and out of the build. And there were certain situations where that card was an all-star. There was other situations where you're like, why do I have an Iron Beak Owl in my hand right now? And I'm just so far ahead most of the time.
Right.
It's a card that I feel like a lot of players feel very similarly about as well. Do they need an Iron Beak Owl? And Phonetap, honestly, with the way that his decks have been built, it would not surprise me to see an Iron Beak Owl in his build, but I don't know if it fits when he's got equality and stuff like that in there.
Right. We kind of look now. Phonetap's hand is very, very strong in the late game. Turn 6 Mysterious Challenger, turn 7 Mysterious Challenger, turn 8 Put Your Faith in the Light.
Yeah.
But getting to that point is going to be a little bit problematic when we look at what Muzzy has.
Muzzy just happens to have one of those hands, I feel like, that can really push a lot of damage. And in this situation, I don't think he's going to be pushing damage.
Ooh.
Well, now things might have changed just a little bit. So initially, I was looking at his hand and thinking to myself, does he have time to push damage? He's looking at a Knife Juggler. He's looking at a Pilot Shredder. To me, he's just going to have great trades at every single step of the way. It looks like that's the direction he's going to take. But now that he's got this Defender of Argus, I don't think he's worried about anything.
Yeah, his hand is really, really versatile, is the word I would use. He can look at possibly taunting. Shadow Flame with that 4/5 there just means he'll be able to clear the board really whenever he wants to. It's kind of an at his leisure thing. Phonetap goes ahead and busts out the Consecration, gets rid of that one Drake, weakens the Ancient Watcher, and then plays down, I believe, Noble Sacrifice. So he's doing a good job of using his mana, making sure that he kind of is constantly pushing something, getting threats off the board. And next turn, Mysterious Challenger.
Yeah, that's really the big swing turn for him.
Can we talk just one moment about the evolution of the community naming convention of Mysterious Challenger? I believe, what was it? It was Dr. Six, because the dream was that you followed it up, obviously, with Dr. Boom.
Yeah.
And the most recent one I'm hearing, and I actually prefer this one, is Mysterious Doctor. I like Mysterious Doctor.
I don't think I would ever want to go to a Mysterious... Like, you walk into an office, and you'd be like, who are we going to get today? And they, like, spin a wheel.
More importantly, it's just a man who rides up on a horse. Who am I?
John Cena!
Your physician! Yeah, so this is... we're going to see that Mysterious Challenger come down. I don't know how many different secrets.
This is really a big talking point, too. Is he a guy who likes to play the full set?
No, he's got a little hat.
Yeah, he's got 4 total secrets in here, and the reason is because he drew both of these Noble Sacrifices, of course. So Phonetap, not a Repentance kind of guy. He says, you know what, that card's too situational. It's not providing the same kind of push that I want it to. And again, not a big surprise considering how big of a control player this guy has been. He's not making those very aggressive early game pushes. He's been much more focused on making meaningful decisions in the middle stages of the game, more difficult decisions, I should say. At that stage of the game, kind of relying on his ability to navigate those waters rather than having raw power at the start.
Yeah, the unfortunate fact here, though, for Phonetap is this is actually a situation where Repentance would probably be pretty strong based on the number of just hulking creatures.
Yeah, hulking is the correct word
That handlock
there.
puts out just giants over here, giants over there, or over here, Mal'Ganis over here, just big things that, oh gosh, the Jirax is coming down into a Repentance. How good would that be?
That happened to me. I was on the Jirax's side.
Oof.
I did not realize that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning curve, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes stuff happens. So we see here, Muzzy trades in the Sludge Belcher. There's a very angry-looking Murloc on Phonetap's board.
Yeah, Puddle Stomper, that guy looks like he's ready to go.
Yeah, he's always ready to throw down.
And so now Muzzy has actually gotten some valuable information from this attack. Obviously, he's expecting Noble Sacrifice.
Right.
When he doesn't see that Noble Sacrifice now, how does he figure out what these 3 are? Because now Repentance is now back in the mix for a possibility, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. I joke about this a lot at work with Zaraya and Daxari. And we talk about, it's like, okay, how do you get rid of all these secrets? And it's like one of those movies where you have to disarm the bomb before everything explodes. You're like, all right, start with disarming the yellow one. They're all yellow. They have to kind of test and figure out which is the secret you're most afraid of dealing with. And Muzzy looks just as perplexed as I generally tend to be on ladder. He goes ahead and taps. He's used the Sludge Belcher to do a little bit of probing and find out there's no Noble Sacrifice, and he's just like, I'm going to make it.
See, I've always wondered...
Repentance!
Wow, Repentance actually isn't here. Does that mean Competitive Spirit is not?
That's interesting.
Yeah, no Competitive Spirit, actually, in this build.
Well, Phonetap has Competitive Spirit. He's just not running the secret Competitive Spirit.
You're absolutely right. You put it so eloquently, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful piece of poetry. See, I was always wondering about movies. When they're disarming that bomb, they always have like a manual.
Right.
That tells them, and I'm like, where did you get the manual from? Some guy's just been carrying it around the whole time in his backpack?
Don't they usually call people on the phone? Like, there's always someone who's like way more relaxed about it. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry, just snip the yellow one. Like, they're all yellow. So we see here, Phonetap. Phonetap could play down another Mysterious Challenger, but at the same time, it wouldn't get a whole lot of value.
Yeah, the second one really ends up being a big impact, I feel like. when your opponent has had to proc all your secrets.
Right.
And that hasn't happened to Phonetap just yet. He still has 2 of them out and a 3rd one in his hand. How many more does he have left in his deck even? This could just end up being basically a 6-mana 6/6.
Right, and even if you play like 1 secret, so you kind of get 7 mana's worth of value for, it doesn't feel that great. I like the Sledge Belcher play. I like Shielded Minibot. These are both stickier minions. They're harder to deal with for the handlock. And then he has Tyrion Forging next turn.
Yeah, he's definitely going to put some of his faith in the light.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that Tyrion come down. And Muzzy, again, Muzzy is just really not sure what the play is here looking at his hand. He has the ability to put down minions and begin pushing his own agenda, but he's only at 13 health.
Which is the big problem with the way the entire game has been played for him so far, is that he hasn't had the time to do what he wants to do.
Right.
He's got all the tools to do it, but your opponent doesn't want to give you those turns. They're looking to kill you. And Phonetap, let me tell you what, he's been doing a great job at actually killing his opponents so far. It's been all concentrated, just a couple turns too. It hasn't been like chip away, chip away, chip away. Oh, I just barely got there. Like the Hunter game, for instance, it was all in one single blow.
Right,
The Grip Patron was over 2 turns. This one, the bulk of his damage has come over the last 2 turns.
Right, and we see Muzzy, again, he's kind of looking over his options. He could have played down a Mountain Giant. He could have played down Dr. Boom on turn 7, which obviously feels like the correct play most of the time. But he just kind of figures, I need to make walls.
Yeah, I don't think he's got much of an option here either. And this is exactly the situation you were talking about, where Equality could have played a very big difference in this game. But either way, Phonetap's going to put his faith in the light, and he's got just enough to run over this Molten Giant and then start making some headway on this board. Muzzy, meanwhile, there is no Ironbeak Owl in this hand, so Ashbringer is happening whether or not he wants it to.
Now, he can, unless I'm getting the secrets wrong here, it looks like he can full clear with Shadow Flame. But unfortunately, that still leaves an Ashbringer with 3 charges.
There's still an Avenge down?
Yeah, that's true, actually. So, no, I don't think he can full clear.
There's still a Redemption down as well.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, he's not even close to possibly being able to full clear
And you can see it. Look at the way that Muzzy's reacting to this situation. Muzzy has had his hands on his head in deep focus almost the entirety of this game so far.
Paladin Secrets, there was a long period prior to Mysterious Challenger where people were like, it's just Paladin Secrets. It's not a big deal. But when they come out en masse, you start having to basically write down like on a board here, you're like, all right, so I do this to deactivate this one, and then I deactivate this one. Where does Avenge go? Yeah. I don't want to get Redemption on, like, Sludge Belcher. No, you don't want that.
Yeah, Paul Revere was deadly with 1 message to bring. The Paul Revere with 4 messages is a little bit more deadly, I would say.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
So at 11, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, he is that 11? Yep, he's dead on board as it stands.
Yeah,
but he's got to get through this taunt first.
Yeah. We'll see if Phonetap finds it. Phonetap's a smart guy. I feel like he's going to figure this one out here.
Well, he's got to get. The thing about it is he's got to get through the Ancient Watcher. So the way the damage has to be split up, he doesn't quite have the push for it.
Right.
He's actually only got 4 points of damage from his hand.
Yeah, he's going to have to figure this out. And if he doesn't happen to see this lethal, and he looks at Mysterious Challenger, that's again, it's not necessarily something you would end up playing because you want the super value from secrets. It's so much as it's another big body on the board, and your opponent has shown an inability to clear your board thus far.
Gosh, Phonetap is he's 1 damage off of doing this. So if the Sludge Belcher and the Shielded Minibot run over this, he's got 6 with the Tyrion and 4 with the True Silver Champion.
Oh, so he is 1 off.
He's 1 point of damage off. I mean, he had enough damage on board, but he's got to get through the taunt first. So, I mean, again, the Equality, a Consecrate, being able to silence something, all of these things would have come into effect right now. But instead, he's going to have to settle for what he's got. And
right.
I think at this point, you just push.
Yeah, you play down that Noble Sacrifice. You play down anything you can. Just put more power on the board. And then it kind of, I'm trying to think what Muzzy could really draw to kind of get him out of this situation.
Well, Void Caller's not quite it, but he can stay alive for another turn.
An important note, he could Shadow Flame the Void Caller into second Void Caller. We've seen a fair number of games here so far today where Void Caller's just been a huge MVP. It's bringing out Mal'Ganis's, it's bringing out Jiraxis's. Where are those guys?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the nature of that card. Is it's going to be relatively high risk, relatively high reward. So Muzzy going to start proccing these secrets down, and obviously he's got his sight set on Shadow Flame. And there's going to be that redemption. Yep. So the secret's been taken care of at this point. Is he going to anti-Healbot? I don't know. Muzzy actually may have recovered this board state.
Right. That said, popping all these secrets will, in theory, make Mysterious Challenger. I'm not entirely sure what has been played versus what's in the deck, but it might make that Mysterious Challenger a much better play. Let's see here. So yeah, that's it's gonna deal with most of the board. Slime comes out, not a big deal. Wow, he's definitely in a better state.
Yeah, Muzzy actually, you know, he's not quite dead yet. It's going to take 2 swings for this True Silver Champion.
Now shows up.
Wow, just a little bit late on that equality. And again, I don't know how many secrets this Mysterious Challenger's grabbing. Looked to me like that was actually 0.
Like a whiff. Swing and a miss from Mysterious Challenger.
So 2 secrets out of hand for Phonetap. And he's got 5 damage coming in from this Ashbringer. So Muzzy has got 1 draw to figure out a way to stay alive in this game, but it's got to be now.
Iron Beak Owl is not it.
Wow, just 1 card off.
Oof.
Being able to handle that Tyrion. He's going to have to life tap. And that's it.
That is it. Phonetap is going to win this.
Wow, so close. Such a hard fought battle from Muzzy, too. I mean, his opening hand was decent, but Phonetap was really applying pressure every single step of the way. And at the end of the day, you know, he did what he could to fight through it. He put up a darn good one as well. But Ashbringer, along with Tyrion, able to take this series and take this match. Phonetap's going to be moving on 3-1.
It turns out putting his faith in the light was a pretty good place to put his faith for Phonetap.
Yeah, I'd say Tyrion is a pretty darn good guy to trust.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
He's a pretty upstanding citizen. We see Phonetap, though, continuing to do really well this year. This 2015, arguably the year of the Phonetap.
Yeah, this has been a great year for Phonetap, honestly. You know, ever since that ESL Legendary Series 2 win, just been seeing better and better things from this guy. And to see how well composed he is, and something else to take a look at is the way that his decks were built. You know, he's a little bit against the grain, I'd say, in a couple of his builds, not necessarily just the cookie cutter, cut and dry sort of builds that a lot of these players have been playing, wanting to put his own handprint on what's out there. That's part of the beautiful thing of Hearthstone, too. You can make a couple of small changes, and then suddenly the element of surprise is part of where you're finding your wins.
Yeah, as I said earlier, playing against Dreadscale and Hunter's Mark, maybe the Hunter's Mark you expect to run into if you're Muzzy, but not Dreadscale. Yeah, Hunter's Mark?
Dreadscale is certainly an interesting one, and I think a lot of that is aimed at the fact that all those secret paladins are out there. You know, one of the hardest things for Hunter to deal with is a muster for battle when you don't have Unleash the Hounds or Explosive Trap. Dreadscale now gives you a 4/2 body that takes care of that. What a great addition to that build, especially when he's got the Hunter's Mark in there, too. It's just another way to deal a point damage.
Right, and up next, we actually have another winner from the ESL Legendary Series. This was from Season 1, is Silent Storm's going to be taking on Lucchesi.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that match as well. That's going to be a big one. Silent Storm, you know, he was picked up on Team Celestial.
Right.
They've been looking like a very strong team. Some of the strongest players in the Asian regions on that one. Tiddler Celestial on that team. It's named after him, of course, with Celestial. He got 2nd place at the World Championships last year.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Silent Storm. So back in the day, Silent Storm was really the first player to kind of popularize that Demon Warlock deck. He was running like Mistress of Pain and Demon Heart. Kind of curious to see, you know, what he brings, because I have not seen him play as of yet.
Yeah, I saw him play just a little bit earlier. We have his lists right here, the archetypes anyway. He's got Combo Druid, he's got Midrange Hunter, and he's got Dragon Priest.
Wow,
along
so
in that build.
Didn't even bring Warlock.
You know, he certainly did, and I think he's got his sights set on a couple other things. Looks like he's trying to target some people's builds rather than anything else. So that's our 3rd match of the day in the books now. We got more Hearthstone coming up for you, though. You're not going to want to miss it. Again, ESL Legendary Series winner number 1 is going to be facing off against Lucchesi when we come back. So don't go anywhere, guys. After this short break, more Hearthstone.